Welcome again to Joust on a Boxing. So, Eddie Hearn and Simon Jordan had their little face-off, and people have said to me, boxing fans who I know have been said, "What do you think of this?" Look, I don't really have a great deal to say about it because it lasted for about an hour. They covered different subjects, and the one that was top of the tree was the Conor Benn failed test business. Now, let me give you my opinion, right? Conor Benn failed 2 tests, all right? I don't care whose fault it was that the fight did or didn't go ahead. It's no interest to me at all. The fact is that he failed 2 tests, and if he wants to clear his name, he's got to now prove beyond a reasonable doubt that those tests were erroneous or that there was contamination, whatever reason it is, he's got to prove it. Because if you fail a test, never mind 2 of them, to me, that's proof. You're guilty and you shouldn't be allowed to fight. So Eddie Hearn, when he talks, and again, I'm not going to go into it, lasted for about an hour and losing the will to live, but actually, no, it was quite entertaining most of the time. When they didn't get sort of personal and start throwing verbal custard pies at each other, it was a pretty good debate. But Eddie's basically saying, I couldn't cancel the fight. It's not down to me. It's down to the board. I have legal obligation. The board are the ones that act. They didn't act quick enough. And Jordan is saying that's a load of rubbish and saying, what are you saying that, even though you're the promoter, you can't pull the plug? And, if you were at one point, Jordan, and this was a very, very good point and kind of at the crux of it for me personally, Jordan said, you're saying that you had contracts with these boxers, so if the board didn't pull the plug, you couldn't cancel it. Okay, and the board took 5 weeks to pull the plug. What I would do, this is Jordan's view, what I would do is I would have my fighters sign contracts that stipulate very, very clearly, crystal clear, if you fail a test, you are bringing my company, never mind boxing, into disrepute. Therefore, I am not obliged to put the show on. And that seems to me to be a pretty sensible viewpoint. And Hearn didn't really have an answer to that. Now, again, I don't care about all this he said, she said, this timeline, that timeline. It doesn't interest me. Conor Benn failed 2 tests. If he wants to carry on fighting in Britain under a board license, he doesn't seem to actually want to do that, but if he does, he's got to prove himself innocent. And it's not enough for Eddie Hearn to say, well, I'm going to sort some fights out for him abroad and he's still a big name and I want him to fight in Britain again. Simon Jordan was saying that's kind of immoral because surely you want him to prove his innocence. The WBC thing you can push to one side. Ben said during the interview with Piers Morgan, I've been proven innocent. No, you haven't. It's a million miles from being proven innocent. They simply said, well, okay, we've looked at it and there's some grey area, so all right, we'll reinstate you. That's not being proven. That's not giving a comprehensive, cast iron piece of evidence. Apparently, this 270-page dossier, which for whatever reason, bizarrely, Ben won't submit to the board and won't make public knowledge, he won't allow the public to see it, that's not being made public. Hearn said, well, he's suing the board. There's a legal matter, so he can't release the information yet. Well, we'll see what happens once that legal issue has been, or that legal dispute has come to its conclusion. We'll see whether Ben does put the so-called dossier out there. But nothing that Ben said during the Piers Morgan interview concerning his desire to prove himself innocent to the board and his refusal to touch them and to go near them and his talk of vendetta, and there was a slight sort of tinge of paranoia there. None of that made the remotest sense. And in fairness to Hearn, he did say, well, I don't think Conor should have done that interview, and I would like to see that dossier given to the board, and I want him to fight under the board's jurisdiction and so on. So Hearn was saying the right things there. But again, I get back. To me, this is not complicated. This is It's really not complicated at all. If you fail a drug test, if you fail 2 of them for this, apparently the same reason at different times, then you should be banned. Not necessarily for life, but you should be banned. A first offence, I don't know, you tell me, 5 years? I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, I don't know. But there should be some punishment, real punishment, not 6 months, because that doesn't matter. 6 months is irrelevant. Fighters take 6 months off. 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, I don't know. For 5 years for a first offence, off the top of my head. But it's up to you to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you're innocent, if you are innocent, So that's my take on it. It's not much of a take, I know, because they talked about other things. They talked about AJ, and Jordan was, I think, overly critical of AJ. I was kind of on Hearn's side when he was talking about Joshua. I don't think Joshua gets enough credit for his achievements. 2-time world champ, and did it in not many fights at all. I think his achievements are considerable. Even though he's lost 3 times. He avenged one of them, and losing twice to Usyk on points back to back, I don't think there's any shame in that. They talked about a number of things, but I think he was a bit unfair, Jordan, on Joshua. They talked about Fury and Usyk, and they didn't really sort of come to any conclusions. None of us can we? Because we don't know where that's going, whether it's going to happen or not. It won't happen in April, I don't think. End of April's, I don't think that's going to happen at all. Anyway, what did you think of this interview? This little bit of fencing, this debate, this little standoff. What did you think of it? Leave your opinions below, because I'd like to hear them. Do you think it was just a load of mealy-mouthed rubbish? Do you think it was a lot of talk about minutiae, about details that ultimately don't matter? Or maybe you do. Maybe you think, no, there was lots of good points made. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Like the video if you liked it. If you're new to the channel, you could subscribe. That would be really fantastic. I'd appreciate that a great deal. And looking forward to reading your comments and answering them. Bye for now.